The millionaire begs for help from a black woman and reveals a game-changing secret. Richard Harding, the Wolf of Wall Street, found himself begging for his life. The Cessna, a twisted heap of metal, lay behind him. He'd crawled out, miraculously alive, but the Adirondack woods, they were closing in. He was bleeding, suit torn, ego shattered. Then he heard it. A voice. "You okay, mister?" Lily, a little black girl, maybe 5 years old, with eyes that saw right through him, living in the middle of nowhere. Alone. She wasn't scared, just curious, like he was a stray dog she'd found. He, Richard Harding, reduced to this. "Help," he croaked, tasting blood, and she did. Patched him up with leaves and some kind of homemade goo. Knew more about survival than anyone he'd ever met. He, who commanded millions with a phone call, was now completely reliant on a child. A black child living in the woods. It was insane. She told him stories around the fire. Stories of animals, of the woods. Of her Gran. Gran had taught her everything. But Gran was gone now. Months gone. And Lily, she was alone. Except she wasn't totally alone, was she? "Some men," she said, poking the fire with a stick. "They came, looking for Gran's secret." Secret? Gran? What secret could a little old lady living in the middle of the woods possibly have? But something in Lily's voice, serious, dead serious. And Richard, for the first time in his life, felt a pang of something other than greed. It was responsibility. He got them back to civilization, promised her a life of luxury, a home, everything she deserved. But then, at his penthouse, overlooking Central Park, she froze. That's where they live," she whispered, pointing across the street. A black sedan. Unremarkable, but deadly. He followed her gaze. A chill snaked up his spine. They were already waiting. What did Gran know? And who the hell were these guys? Y antes de continuarmos con esta historia incrível, preciso te fazer alerta importante. Muitos inscritos têm relatado que o YouTube removeu suas inscrições sem aviso. Dá só uma conferida rápida no botão vermelho aí embaixo para garantir que você ainda está inscrito no canal. Não quero que você perca nenhum conteúdo exclusivo que vem por aí. E já que você está aí, deixa aquele like poderoso que me ajuda muito com o algoritmo. Ah, e me conta nos comentários, de qual cidade você está assistindo? Adoro conhecer cada pessoa incrível que faz parte de uma comunidade. Sua participação faz toda diferença. Vamos interagir. "That's where they live," she whispered, pointing across the street. A black sedan, unremarkable, but deadly. He followed her gaze. A chill snaked up his spine. They were already waiting. What did Gran know? And who the hell were these guys? He grabbed her hand. "Come on, Lily. We gotta move. Now." He pulled her back inside. Adrenaline pumping. He barked orders at his security team. The guys he usually trusted with his life. Now, he wasn't so sure. He felt exposed. Vulnerable. Something he hadn't felt in decades. "Get us out of here. Back entrance. Now. No questions." They hustled through the penthouse, a blur of priceless art and panicked energy. Down the service elevator. Into the garage. The black sedan across the street hadn't moved. They were watching. Waiting. He shoved Lily into the back of his limo. Jumped in after her. "Drive! Drive like hell!" The driver peeled out, tires screaming. They sped through the city streets, weaving in and out of traffic. Richard kept glancing behind him, expecting to see the black sedan on their tail. But nothing. Just ordinary traffic. He started to relax. Maybe he was overreacting. Maybe. Suddenly, Lily screamed. A high-pitched, blood-curdling scream that made his blood run cold. "Lily, what is it? What's wrong?" She pointed to the driver. He's one of them." Richard looked at the driver. Just a normal guy, doing his job. Or so he thought. The driver's eyes met his in the rearview mirror. No fear, no apology, just cold calculation. The driver slammed on the brakes. The limo screeched to a halt. They were in the middle of Times Square, surrounded by thousands of people. Nowhere to run. Before Richard could react, the driver reached under his seat. He pulled out a gun. Not a fancy silenced pistol, but a cheap, beat-up revolver. He pointed it at Lily. "Sorry, kid," the driver said, his voice flat and emotionless. "Orders are orders." Richard lunged forward, trying to grab the gun, but he was too slow. The driver fired. But the bullet didn't hit Lily. It hit Richard, right in the chest. He slumped back against the seat, gasping for air. The world swam. Pain exploded in his chest. Then, everything went black. He woke up in a hospital bed. Machines beeped around him. Nurses rushed around. He was alive. Barely. A doctor approached him, his face grim. "Mr. Harding," the doctor said, "you're lucky to be alive. The bullet missed your heart by a hair. But there's something you need to know." He braced himself. "The girl, Lily, she's gone." "Gone? Kidnapped? Dead?" "But that's not all," the doctor continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Before she disappeared, she said something about you." Richard strained to listen. His head was pounding. She said you weren't Richard Harding." "What?" "She said you were her Gran." "She said you weren't Richard Harding." "What?" "She said you were her Gran." My head swam. "Gran? Me? Impossible." The doctor looked at me, his eyes filled with pity, disgust. I couldn't tell. "Mr. Harding, or whoever you are, we need to run some tests. This is beyond anything I've ever seen." "Tests? What kind of tests could prove I was Gran?" It was crazy. "I'm Richard Harding, the Wolf of Wall Street. I built an empire." But then, a memory, flashing. Not mine. An old woman's hands, calloused and strong, tending a garden. A song, hummed softly. A lullaby I somehow knew. My chest tightened. No, it couldn't be. "Where's Lily?" I croaked. The doctor sighed. "The authorities are searching. We'll find her." But I knew they wouldn't. They couldn't. Not if what Lily said was true. I ripped the IVs out of my arm. Pain shot through me, but I didn't care. I had to get out of here. I had to find Lily. "Where are you going? You need rest!" the doctor shouted. I ignored him. I staggered out of the bed, my legs wobbly. I needed answers, and I needed them now. As I stumbled towards the door, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. And I froze. It wasn't my face staring back at me. Not exactly. It was different. Softer. The lines around my eyes deeper. Older. And then I saw it. A small, almost imperceptible birthmark hidden beneath my hairline. A birthmark I hadn't seen in decades. A birthmark Gran used to tell me stories about. A birthmark shaped like a tiny wolf. My breath hitched. Everything clicked into place. The stories Lily told, the way she looked at me, the secret Gran was hiding. It wasn't a secret she was hiding. It was a secret I was hiding from myself. Suddenly, the world tilted. The hospital room spun. My vision blurred. And then, I wasn't in the hospital anymore. I was in the woods, cold, alone, scared, but not as Richard Harding, as Gran. And I knew with a certainty that chilled me to the bone that Lily was in danger. And the men who were after her grand secret, they weren't after money. They were after something far more terrifying. They were after me, as Gran. And I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that Lily was in danger. And the men who were after her grand secret, they weren't after money. They were after something far more terrifying. They were after me. The woods, they felt familiar. More familiar than any Wall Street skyscraper ever did. The scent of pine, the damp earth, the rustling leaves. It was all home. But a home I hadn't remembered in how long? Decades? A lifetime? I stumbled through the undergrowth, my suit jacket snagging on branches. Richard Harding's expensive Italian loafers were sinking into the mud. Useless. I ripped them off, the cold earth shocking my feet. Better. More. Gran. Lily. I had to find her. A memory surfaced. A hidden cabin, deep in the woods. A place only Gran knew. A safe place. Could she have gone there? I started to run, my lungs burning, muscles screaming. This body, it wasn't used to this. Not anymore. But the urgency, the fear, it pushed me on. Hours passed. The sun began to set, casting long, eerie shadows. Just when I thought I couldn't go any further, I saw it. A faint wisp of smoke, rising above the trees. The cabin. I crept closer, my heart pounding. The door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open. Lily. She was there, huddled in a corner, clutching a tattered teddy bear. Relief washed over me, so intense it almost knocked me off my feet. Lily. She looked up, her eyes wide with fear. Then, recognition dawned. Gran, she whispered. I rushed to her, wrapping her in my arms. I'm here, baby. I'm here. But the relief was short-lived. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. Lily wasn't alone. Standing behind her, silhouetted in the doorway, was a figure. Tall, imposing, familiar. Well, 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 the figure said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Look what the cat dragged in. Or should I say, what the wolf dragged in. My blood ran cold. I knew that voice. I knew it intimately. Daniel? I gasped. Daniel, my son. The son I thought was dead. He stepped into the light. His face was hardened, scarred. His eyes cold, devoid of emotion. Hello, mother, he said, a cruel smile playing on his lips. Long time no see. Mother? I stared at him, my mind reeling. This couldn't be happening. Daniel, dead? A drug overdose, years ago. That's what I was told. But you died, I stammered. He chuckled. Did I? Or did you just think I did? Let's just say my death was convenient. Allowed me to pursue certain interests. Interests that Gran here was getting in the way of. He gestured towards Lily, his eyes gleaming with menace. What do you want, Daniel? I asked, my voice trembling. What do I want? He laughed. Oh, Mother, you know exactly what I want. The formula. The one you kept hidden all these years. The one that can, well, let's just say, it can change the world. Or destroy it. Formula? What formula? I didn't know anything about a formula. He raised his hand, and two men stepped out of the shadows. They were big, burly, and armed. Don't play coy with me, Mother, Daniel said, his voice hardening. I know you have it, somewhere inside that ridiculous getup. Now hand it over, or the little girl gets hurt. He nodded towards one of the men, who grabbed Lily roughly. She screamed, tears streaming down her face. No, I cried. Leave her alone. I don't know what you're talking about. Liar, Daniel hissed. He stepped closer, his eyes boring into mine. You may be pretending to be Richard Harding, Mother, but you can't hide from me. I know who you really are, what you really are. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a syringe. The needle glinted in the firelight. This, he said, his voice a low, menacing whisper, will help jog your memory. It's a little something I developed myself, a truth serum of sorts, but with a permanent side effect. He grabbed my arm, his grip like iron. Now, Mother, he said, his eyes filled with a terrifying glee. Let's see what secrets you've been hiding. He plunged the needle into my arm. Pain shot through me, more intense than anything I had ever experienced. My vision blurred. The cabin spun. And then I saw it. A memory. Vivid. Horrifying. A lab. Years ago. Me. In a white coat. Working on something. Something terrible. A formula. A formula that could... Oh, God. I remembered everything, and what I remembered was far worse than anything I could have ever imagined. Because the formula, it wasn't just a secret. It was a curse, and it was about to be unleashed. But not by me, by my son. And then everything went black. But before I lost consciousness, I managed to shout one thing. Lily, run! And then everything went black. But before I lost consciousness, I managed to shout one thing. Lily, run! Darkness. Then a flicker. Faces. Daniel's twisted with rage. Lily, nowhere in sight. Where is she? I croaked, my throat burning. Daniel smirked. Safe. For now. As long as you cooperate. He held up the syringe again. Now, Mother, tell me everything. The formula, how to make it, where it's hidden. The pain was coming back, sharper this time. Memories flooded my mind. Fragments of a life I thought I'd buried. The lab, the experiments, the terrible, terrible truth about the formula. It wasn't a weapon. Not exactly. It was a cure. A cure for aging. Immortality, bottled. But with a catch. A terrible catch. It needed a catalyst. Something rare. Something specific. I can't, I gasped. It's too dangerous. Daniel's smile vanished. He nodded to one of his goons. The man grabbed Lily's teddy bear, ripped it open. A small glass vial fell out. Looking for this? Daniel sneered. My heart stopped. The catalyst, he had it. No, I screamed. Don't! But it was too late. Daniel smashed the vial on the ground. A green mist filled the cabin. We all coughed, choked. Then something impossible happened. Lily, she started to glow. A soft, ethereal light emanated from her skin. Her eyes widened, filled with an ancient knowledge. It's time, she whispered, her voice no longer a child's. It's time to wake up. Daniel stumbled back, his face a mask of disbelief. What's happening? The light intensified. The cabin shook. And then, Lily, she transformed. Not into a grown woman, not into anything human. Scales erupted on her skin. Wings unfurled from her back. A long serpentine tail whipped through the air. She was a dragon, a real fire-breathing dragon. And she was pissed. Daniel screamed, scrambling backwards. His men opened fire, bullets bouncing harmlessly off her scales. You fools! I yelled, struggling to my feet. You don't understand. She's not just a dragon. She's the source. The dragon turned her head, her eyes locking on mine. Recognition flithered within their depths. Gran, she rumbled, her voice a deep, earth-shattering growl. I nodded, tears streaming down my face. Lily, it's me. I'm so sorry, she roared, a sound that shook the very foundations of the cabin. Then, she unleashed a torrent of fire. The cabin exploded, and everything went white. Everything went white. Then, silence. An eerie, ringing silence that pressed against my eardrums. I blinked, trying to focus. Smoke. Acrid, choking smoke filled the air. The cabin was gone, reduced to a smoldering pile of ash. I was lying on the ground, my body aching, every nerve screaming. I pushed myself up, coughing. Daniel! Where was Daniel? I scanned the wreckage, my heart pounding. Nothing, just charred wood and twisted metal. And then I saw it, a hand, protruding from beneath a pile of debris. I rushed over, frantically pulling away the wreckage. It was Daniel. His face was burned, contorted in a silent scream. His eyes were open, staring blankly at the sky. He was dead. I stumbled back, reeling. My son, dead, because of me. But where was Lily? The dragon? What had happened to her? Panic clawed at my throat. I had to find her. Lily! I screamed, my voice hoarse. Lily, where are you? Silence. I started to run, blindly stumbling through the woods, calling her name. Lily, please answer me. And then I heard it, a faint whimper. I followed the sound, pushing through the undergrowth until I saw her. She was lying near a creek, curled up in a ball, her wings folded tightly against her body. But she wasn't a dragon anymore. She was Lily again. Small, scared, alone. I rushed to her, kneeling beside her. Lily, are you okay? What happened? She looked up at me, her eyes filled with confusion. Gran, she whispered. What, what was that? I pulled her into my arms, holding her tight. It's okay, baby. It's over. You're safe now. But she wasn't. Neither of us was. Because as I held her, I felt something shift within me. A tingling sensation, spreading through my veins. A warmth, growing stronger with each passing second. And then I realized what was happening. The formula, the catalyst, the dragon. It hadn't just transformed Lily. It had transformed me, too. I looked down at my hands. The skin was changing, hardening. Scales were forming, spreading up my arms. My bones were shifting, reshaping. I was becoming a dragon, too. But not just any dragon. I was becoming the dragon, the ancient one, the source. And then, a voice inside my head. Ancient, powerful, terrifying. You are mine now, it whispered. You are the vessel. And I am awake. I gasped, clutching Lily tighter. No, get out of my head. Leave me alone. But it was too late. The transformation was complete. I looked down at Lily, my heart breaking. I couldn't protect her anymore. I couldn't even control myself. Run, Lily, I screamed, my voice distorted, monstrous. Run away! Don't look back! She stared at me, her eyes wide with terror. And then she did the only thing she could do. She ran. And as I watched her go, a single tear rolled down my scaled cheek. Because I knew, with a chilling certainty, that I wasn't Gran anymore, or Richard Harding. I was something else, entirely. Something ancient, something powerful, something evil. And I was coming for her. And as I watched her go, a single tear rolled down my scaled cheek. Because I knew, with a chilling certainty, that I wasn't Gran anymore, or Richard Harding. I was something else entirely. Something ancient, something powerful, something evil. And I was coming for her. The woods, they blurred. Trees turned into green streaks as I moved. Faster, faster than anything I could imagine. It wasn't me controlling this body. It was the dragon, the thing inside me. Lily, I had to stop it. I had to protect her. But how could I fight something that was a part of me? Something that was me? A memory flashed. Gran, humming a lullaby as she tended her garden. Lily, giggling as Gran told her stories. Love. Simple, pure love. That's what I had to hold on to. That's what had to fight with. I tried to slow down, to wrestle control. But the dragon wouldn't let me. It was like trying to steer a runaway train. The forest floor became a blur of greens and browns. I could smell Lily, her fear. No. Suddenly, I burst out of the woods, into a clearing, and there she was, Lily, standing by a river, looking back at me. Gran? She whispered, her voice trembling. I couldn't speak. The dragon wouldn't let me. But I could try. I could try to warn her. I took a step forward, then another. Each movement was agony, a battle for control. The dragon wanted to roar, to claim her. But I fought. I fought with every ounce of strength I had left. Finally, I managed to croak out a single word. Run! But it was too late. A figure stepped out of the trees, blocking Lily's path. Not just any figure, a familiar figure. Sarah, my assistant. Richard Harding's loyal, efficient, always put together assistant. But different. Her eyes, they were cold, calculating, empty. "Hello, Lily," she said, her voice a smooth, practiced purr. "We've been expecting you." Lily froze, her eyes wide with terror. Sarah smiled, a chilling, heartless smile. "You know, Richard, or should I say Gran, always underestimated me," Sarah continued, her gaze shifting to me. "He thought I was just a cog in the machine, a puppet. But I was the one pulling the strings all along." "What?" "The formula, the catalyst. It was all me," she said, her voice dripping with pride. "I orchestrated everything. Daniel, he was just a pawn, a useful idiot. No, this couldn't be happening." "But why, Sarah?" I managed to choke out, the dragon's influence weakening for a moment. "Why are you doing this?" She laughed, a harsh, cruel sound that echoed through the clearing. "Power, Richard. Absolute power. The ability to control life and death. And with Lily, with the dragon's blood flowing through her veins, I can achieve it." She stepped closer to Lily, reaching out a hand. Lily flinched, shrinking away. "Don't worry, darling," Sarah said, her voice sickly sweet. "This won't hurt much." And then she pulled out a knife. Not a fancy weapon, but a simple utilitarian blade, the kind you'd use to gut a fish. Lily screamed. I roared. The dragon took over completely. But then, something even more shocking happened. Sarah didn't flinch. She didn't scream. She didn't even look surprised. Instead, she smiled. And as she raised the knife, she spoke. "Goodbye, Lily," she said. "And goodbye, Mother." "Mother?" Sarah plunged the knife into Lily's chest. Not in the heart, lower, deliberately, where the dragon's blood would be concentrated. As Lily's life drained away, Sarah didn't try to contain the blood. She cupped her hands, letting the dragon's blood flow into them. As the blood pooled there, a look of ecstasy spread across Sarah's face, and she lifted her hands to her mouth and drank it all in one long gulp. As Sarah swallowed the last drop of the dragon's blood, the transformation began. But it wasn't into another dragon or anything I could ever have imagined. It was into something much, much worse. As Sarah swallowed the last drop of the dragon's blood, the transformation began. But it wasn't into another dragon or anything I could ever have imagined. It was into something much, much worse. Her skin, it cracked, like porcelain shattering. Not scales, but plates. Bone-white, razor-sharp plates spreading across her body. Her limbs elongated, twisting into grotesque, insectile shapes. Her eyes, they went black, empty pits of nothingness. And then, a voice, not Sarah's, not the dragon's, something else, something ancient and malevolent. Finally, it hissed, the sound echoing from Sarah's thing. Freedom. The creature lunged, not at me, at the river. It plunged its newly formed claws into the water, ripping, tearing. The river, it started to boil. What What are you doing? I croaked, fear choking me. The creature didn't answer. It continued to tear at the river, the water turning black, churning with an unholy energy. And then I saw it, rising from the depths. Not fish, not plants, but faces. Twisted, tormented faces rising to the surface. Souls, the souls of the... I'm freeing them, the creature rasped, its voice filled with an unholy glee. And they are going to help me reshape this world. The souls swirled around the creature, merging, consuming. The creature grew larger, more grotesque. Its power, it was palpable, unstoppable. And then it turned to me. You, it hissed. You will be my herald. You will announce my coming. You will watch as I tear down this pathetic world and build a new one. In my image, it reached out a clawed hand. I tried to run, but I was paralyzed with fear. And then, everything changed. A light, a blinding golden light erupted from the sky. It washed over the creature, over the river, over me. And then, silence. The creature was gone. The river, it was clear again. The souls, they were at peace. And Sarah, she was lying on the ground, unconscious. I staggered towards her, my heart pounding. Was it over? Had the light saved us? I knelt beside her, checking for a pulse, weak, but there. And then her eyes fluttered open. "Richard?" she whispered, her voice weak and confused. "Richard." She remembered Richard? What happened? She asked, her eyes searching mine. And then she saw it. My scales, my claws, my monstrous form. Her eyes widened with terror. What are you?" she gasped. And then she started to laugh. A hollow, hysterical laugh that chilled me to the bone. "Oh, Richard," she choked out, tears streaming down her face. "You have no idea, do you?" "No idea? No idea what?" She reached up, grabbing my arm. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "The dragon's blood, it didn't just transform me," she whispered, her voice a low, conspiratorial rasp. "It awakened something that was always there." She leaned closer, her breath hot on my face. "I'm your daughter, Richard," she hissed. "Your daughter. And now we're going to rule this world together." "Oh, Richard," she choked out, tears streaming down her face. "You have no idea, do you? You? No idea? No idea what?" She reached up, grabbing my arm. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "The dragon's blood. It didn't just transform me," she whispered, her voice a low, conspiratorial rasp. "It awakened something that was always there." She leaned closer, her breath hot on my face. "I'm your daughter, Richard," she hissed. "Your daughter. And now we're gonna rule this world together." "Daughter? Me? But impossible. My wife. She couldn't have. Could she?" A memory, airy deep. A secret meeting. A hushed phone call. A tearful goodbye. My wife and Sarah's father. It clicked. The dates, the secrecy, the Wolf of Wall Street played. But that wasn't the shock. Not really. Sarah's hand, it tightened on my arm. A pressure, building, crushing. "You don't understand, Daddy," she purred, her eyes glowing with a terrifying light. "I don't just want to rule the world. I want everything." And then she did something that defied all logic, all reason. She bit me. Not a playful nip, a savage, desperate bite. Into my arm, right where the scales were forming. She tore into my flesh, drinking. The pain, it was unbearable. But something else, something far more terrifying was happening. The dragon, the thing inside me, it was fighting back, but not against Sarah, against me. It wanted her. It wanted the connection. It wanted to merge. I screamed, a sound that ripped through the forest, a sound that was part human, part dragon and all terror. Sarah, she just kept drinking. Her eyes rolled back in her head. Her body, it started to convulse, and then a light. Not golden this time, a sickly green light, enveloping us both. I saw visions, flashes of a life, not mine, a life ancient and powerful, but dragon's life, a dragon's memories. And then, a horrifying truth. The dragon, it wasn't a thing. It wasn't an entity. It was a consciousness, a soul. And it had been waiting for a vessel, waiting for a connection, waiting for its mate. Sarah wasn't my daughter. She was my reincarnation, the other half of the dragon's soul, the one destined to rule, and we were finally complete. I looked at Sarah, at myself, at the green light engulfing us, and I knew, with a chilling certainty, Lily wasn't the key, the formula, the catalyst. It was all a distraction. The real secret, the real power was us, me and Sarah, the Dragon King and Queen, and we were ready to claim our throne. But where? I gazed to Sarah, as she spoke to me in a telepathic tone as we rose to the sky. "Let's start with New York. Let's start with New York. New York, a city that never sleeps, a city about to meet its nightmare." We rose, higher, faster. The wind screamed past us, but I felt nothing. Sarah, we felt nothing. Just the raw, exhilarating power. The city lights twinkled below, a glittering playground for our new reign. "Ready, Daddy?" Sarah purred, her voice echoing in my mind. Daddy. The word twisted in my gut. This wasn't right. This wasn't what I wanted. But the dragon, it had other plans. We landed in Times Square, where it all began. But this time, there was no fear, no escape, just anticipation. The crowds, they parted before us, like the Red Sea before Moses. They sensed it. The power, the terror. Sarah raised her hand, and the city, it trembled. Buildings swayed. Cars exploded. The very ground beneath our feet, it cracked. People screamed. They ran. But there was nowhere to run. We were in control, but then a flicker, a spark, a memory. Lily, her smile, her laughter, her trust. No, I couldn't let this happen. I fought. I fought with everything I had, with every shred of humanity left inside me. I had to save her, even if it meant destroying myself. I turned to Sarah. Her eyes, they were empty, soulless. "Sarah," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Stop, please." She laughed, A cold, heartless sound. "It's too late, Daddy," she said. "There's no going back." And then she unleashed the storm, a wave of darkness, a tidal wave of destruction. It surged through the city, consuming everything in its path. But then, a light, faint, distant, but growing stronger. It was Lily, standing on a rooftop, bathed in moonlight. Her eyes, they glowed. She raised her hand, and the city, it answered. The darkness, it faltered, it receded. The people, they stood their ground. They fought back. Hope, it bloomed. Sarah screamed. Her power, it waned. And then, I saw it. The opening, the chance. I lunged at Sarah. I grabbed her. I held her tight. And then, I jumped off the rooftop into the abyss. We fell together. The city lights, they blurred. And then, darkness. But before the darkness consumed me, I saw it. Lily, smiling, free. Was it enough? Was the monster gone? I'm not sure. Maybe one day the dragon and I will meet again. And maybe you will be there to see it happen. But to find out, you need to subscribe to the channel immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to demonstrate your support. Smash that like button agora to feed the algorithm. And don't wait nem mais segundo to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this ending. Inundate the comments section with your reactions and theories about the end. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel with these actions. What happens next is up to you.